right. Well, yeah. Let me turn the microphones up. Welcome to the first Technology and Community Forum hosted here at Monkey Brains. Alex, my business partner, will be the moderator. And I'll run AV. My name is Rudy, and I'm excited to see you all engaging here at the intersection of community and technology. And this evening we invited all the D9 candidates to come and speak about tech. And one story that sort of sticks with me about the role of legislation in San Francisco was that many years ago, someone made an app where you could like go into a parking spot that you found and then like hit a button that you're there, and then someone could pay you to move. And they were like, for $5 you could go to the next parking spot. And the city said you can't do that. And that's just the smallest example of, I think, where everyone is on the same page about that. We're going to cover a variety of topics, and then we'll open up to some questions. And maybe some people have more knowledge in certain fields than we do. Like Alex and I know a lot about running an ISP, but we don't really know much about self-driving cars. So let's see where the forum goes. Alex.
Thank you, Rudy. I want to just start by saying thank you to the candidates for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you guys had 2 debates yesterday, and it was really hot in one of them, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and do this here. And to the audience as well for taking time to come and have this conversation with us about tech and community. I also want to kind of preface the format. We're going to do 2 minutes. We're going to try to rotate. We want to respect each other, obviously, in our time. Rudy's going to keep time, and he'll be showing you a series of note cards there when you're 30 or 10. Hopefully you can still see. You can see your looks. In there. Ooh, you can't see it?
All right, I'll hold it there.
Right. Yeah, the table was in a better spot earlier, so. But yeah, we're going to let you guys know when you're running out of time, and then we ask you to please wrap it up so that we have time for the other candidates. I also want to mention that although obviously the topics are in technology, the answers need not be technical. This is an opportunity for the candidates to provide their policy view and to use these themes and where technology kind of is intertwined with community and how your policy positions, kind of marry with that. So don't be intimidated if the questions seem, they're all kind of geared for you to convey your policy position. So there's no right answers, there's only your view, and that's what the public and you want to hear tonight. Okay, great. We're going to start with a question that means a lot to.
Could we do 2 minutes introduction?
Oh, sorry, introduction. My
first?
bad.
Let's do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's here?
Yeah, let's start with who's here. Let's start right here. Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Hi everybody. My name is Julian Bermudez, and I'm running for District 9 Supervisor. I'm a Mission-born and raised kid. I went to St. Peter's School down the street, and I went to Archbishop Reardon right by City College, and then I took my talents up to Chico State to study religious studies because the anthropology department was kind of impacted at the time. Then after that, I decided to do 3 years in the Army as an infantryman, where I spent 3 years in Fort Carson, Colorado. And now I'm here back in the Mission District trying to give back to my community and make sure my community that raised me and I pay back my dues. I work at Rancho Grande Appliances, which is my family's small business. We work on refrigerators, stoves, etc. And I've been doing that ever since I've been born, so I'm a blue collar, as my blood says. And I want to bring the passion that my grandpa taught me of hard work and dedication to San Francisco politics, because small businesses and especially blue collar workers are extremely underrepresented in City Hall. It feels like there's none that sometimes, filled with landlords and lawyers that feel like they know what's best, but when the majority of the people are working class people just trying to get by. And yeah, I'm just here trying to inspire the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to remind the candidates to speak directly into the mic a little closer. Although your voice does project really well. But
Hi, Alex. I'm H. Brown. I'm running for ideas. I always run for ideas, period. Usually somebody else's ideas. This election cycle, I'm running, pushing primarily an idea that was Sheriff Mike Hennessy's idea. He was here for 32 years. And it's elect our police chief just as we elect our sheriff, just as we elect our DAs, our city attorney, and our mayor. The people should have a say in this. The police department is all fucked up because they are pulled between the chief of police, who actually has no power here, the mayor, who has all the power and denies it, and the police union, which has all of the power. The police union tells them, don't arrest people. And they don't arrest people. This sucks. If you've got a powerful police chief, you can change that and you can actually get some reforms. And the only way that you can get a powerful police chief is to have an elected police chief. The idea of celebrating this guy's been here 8 years, and that's the most in 100 years. For first 85 years of this town, we elected our police chief, and it went all right. The last 65, we've been doing political appointments, and it's not worked out. Anyway, I'm H. Brown. I'm here with other people's ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jaime Gutierrez. And I don't think that I'm the greatest speaker, but I'll do the best that I can for you. That's really why I'm running, because I want to help. I am very much a humble servant. My grandmother brought me up in a home where working was put on us, or put on me mostly. She raised all the men in my family, and I was the last in line. So believe me, I got it the worst. She she was a bag of nails, my grandma. She loved me, but she tried to make me a good boy, and I think that I lived up to that. I think that was her dying wish to me, and that's why I'm running. Because I want to be of service to you. How can I best serve thee? That's what I do for a living. I work for Muni, for SFMTA. I've been with them for going on 12 years. I started out as a bus driver and I moved up to a supervisor controller. I watched the city happen in front of my eyes, and operators call me. Like today, we had an operator that was really having a hard time with people that his leader was dogging him out and leaving him behind and making him pick up all the people that he didn't want to pick up. So he was upset, and I empathized with him, and that's why I was there. So for the last 26 years, I've been helping people get their lives together. That's what I do in my spare time. And I decided to run because the people that were here before me were those people. And I'm talking about Dianne Feinstein, I'm talking about Harvey Milk, I'm talking about people that decided one day to get into public service because they wanted to make a difference. That is who I am, and that's who I want to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Trevor Chandler. I'm the Democratic Party's endorsed candidate for District 9. Thank you so much to Monkey Brains for hosting this. My background is in LGBT civil rights, so I worked with the Human Rights Campaign across the country on 7 marriage equality campaigns, over a dozen trans-inclusive non-discrimination campaigns. And that gave me the experience of having extremely tough conversations with people I did not agree on anything except for that one thing. And I was able to build those coalitions. I developed an international reputation for that. For the last year, I've had the privilege of teaching at San Francisco Unified. I taught 3rd grade at Flint Elementary. And prior to that, talking about technology and civic engagement, I was actually the Director of Government Affairs for the Citizen Act, the Public Safety Act. And in my role there, it was actually my job to go toe-to-toe with municipalities, go toe-to-toe with mayors like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, who were trying to cut off law enforcement communications from the public. We're trying to cut off police transparency. And it was my job to make sure they weren't able to do that. So I love this forum, and I love the fact that we're able to have this conversation about the intersection of technology and civics. I'm running not because San Francisco is broken. San Francisco is not broken, as we can see from the people in this room, and we can see outside. I live right around the corner. San Francisco is not broken. City Hall is broken, and there's a very big difference. I'm running as the change candidate. If you're tired of what you see at City Hall, there's plenty of folks running who have a lot more supervisor endorsements than I do. What I'm offering is a fresh perspective. I'm offering the ability to see walls and not just assume that they're supposed to be there and figure out a way to go around them. I'm here to see walls and figure out if they're supposed to be there in the first place and break them down. And my first priority, because I've knocked on well over 10,000 voters' doors, my team has knocked on even more, is public safety. It has to be number one for our small businesses, it has to be number one for our homeowners, and it has to be number one for our neighborhoods, such as here on Shotwell, where we're dealing with really some horrific human trafficking and sex trafficking that's impacted the quality of life in this neighborhood. So I'd be honored to earn your vote, and I look forward to sharing more with you.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, my name is Roberto Hernandez, and thank you, Monkey Brain, for hosting us here today. Bienvenidos a todos, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. I was born and raised here. I want to tell you a little story. Right here, there used to be a train that ran here. In fact, on Harrison Street, there was trains that came and delivered wood and all kinds of different products. And all of Harrison Street was warehouses. And there were blue-collar jobs. In San Francisco, we had a lot of blue-collar jobs. We had Ham's Brewery. In fact, there's a big old beer that it would stack up. There was the Uncle Ben Rice. There was the Seeds Candies. I could go on and tell you about all the blue-collar jobs. My entire familia, my abuelita, my tias, my tios, they built heaters, they were mechanics, they worked in factories, and some of them were real good union jobs, you know. My abuelita bought a house on York Street. It was 2 flats, $30,000, affordable, mortgage, $300 a month, PG&E was $5 a month. What is your PG&E bill today?
150.
300, 400, I hear it all the time. You know, so when you look at what this community once was, right, and the amount of children that ran in the streets, children don't run in the streets no more. I ran in the streets all day, all night. The rule in my house was you better be home before the sunlight went down. We rode our bikes, we, rode the buses. 7 years old, 9 years old, we used to go to Fisherman's Wharf. I was a shoe shine boy. I delivered newspapers. I sold Avon for my mom. I grew roses in my backyard. I was a street vendor. I sold roses on the street. I learned how to grow yerba buena. And then, eventually Bryan School, where I first went to, I didn't know English. But I was born here, and I got in trouble for speaking Spanish. And then eventually my father sent me to Delano, California, where I got trained by Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez to be an organizer, and I've been an organizer all my life since then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steven Torres. I am a 24-year veteran of the nightlife and hospitality industry. I've lived in San Francisco for 25 years. Most of that has been here in the Mission and in Bernal Heights. Like a lot of us, I came to San Francisco looking for a place where I could grow and be myself. I came out at the end of high school and things weren't so great at home, and I needed to come to a place where I could flourish and grow. And San Francisco was that place, and I think it still is for a lot of people. It's still a beacon of hope for a lot of people, and a lot of people come here for innovation, for growth, for self-discovery. And I think that this is part of our cultural heritage. It's a part of our cultural heritage that I want to help preserve. I want to strengthen our community. I want to represent you at City Hall as a working stiff, just like the rest of you. I do understand in all industries here, most of us are working in varying degrees of representation. Not all of us have representation or protections. That is most certainly the case for me and everyone else that works in the nightlife industry. There are a few of us that work in local 2, that work in the hotel industry and other corporate parts of the industry, but for the most part, we don't have that representation, and that informs a lot of why I am here. I also served as an entertainment commissioner for the same reasons. I came to find out in the industry seat, it was mostly held by decision makers, not workers. I worked at the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development in the Cultural District program to help strengthen our cultural districts. So a lot of the perspective that I bring here is how are we going to strengthen our neighborhoods and our communities, because that is what San Francisco is. San Francisco is comprised of all of these communities, all of this culture. That is why people come from all over the world, just like I did, just like you did.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you
So,
ready? Are you ready for the first slide?
Yes, maybe if you don't mind keeping the microphone over at Stephen. We'll start that way. Be easy for me. Thank you. See, they line up. Okay, great. So this question is on Article 52. So this is probably unknown to a lot of people, but to an ISP and people in telecom, it is not. And I'll read it. Article 52 is a groundbreaking ordinance authored in San Francisco that is part of the San Francisco Police Code. It requires building owners to allow a telecom provider into a building if the provider's service is being requested by tenants in the building. This promotes internet choice, albeit after a building is constructed and occupied. What would you do to improve and expand upon Article 52 so local internet service providers can provide affordable and accessible internet to residents? So I'm going to start with Stephen. And again, this is a piece of legislation that was authored here in San Francisco to allow tenants the ability to pick their internet provider and not be blocked by a owner of a building, which they could be in the multi-unit space. Sometimes these buildings have arrangements with larger ISPs, and when an internet service provider that is not that is desired by a tenant, maybe because of cost usually, sometimes they're blocked. But this piece of legislation authored here in SF is completely innovative, is very different, and other municipalities have followed suit. Oakland wrote their own ordinance last year.
We're kicking off with this question because we've sued several property owners to provide service in buildings, and it's the main piece of legislation that we're familiar with.
That's
Okay,
right.
Go
So we kick it off with this one.
go
It's
ahead,
a hard
Alex.
one, but it'll get a lot easier after this. Okay, Stephen, you have 2 minutes. Rudy, are you keeping time?
Yes.
Yes, I'm familiar with Article 52. Actually, full disclosure, Monkey Brains is my internet service provider. And I do want to also disclose that there was a little bit of a back and forth in regards to Article 52 as it applied to my building. So I do feel that there, in terms of the coding as written right now, I think that there are some pieces of language that can be changed and clarified to make sure that tenants and people seeking this service know what they're entitled to in this regard. I do also want to concede that because of the age of our city and because of certain tenants or certain landlords' buildings' structural capacities, that these are components that we have to acknowledge, and sometimes things are not conducive to the same to every infrastructural requirement that every service provider has. Monkey Brains has a very specific infrastructure that's required to go in, and sometimes, but I do think that there are landlords who use kind of some gray areas in the coding to put clauses in leases that tenants are not aware are actually illegal. And so I think that is where we can do some clarification language. I think that at the very end of the day, when it comes to city government, the more clarity, the better.
Thank you.
During the COVID pandemic, I started the Mission Food Hub and provided 9,000 families with groceries every week. Within a couple of weeks of the pandemic, I learned there were not hundreds, but thousands of people who did not have internet. Children were not able to get on the internet and get their education. To me, that was criminal. That children were standing next to McDonald's and buildings, sitting on the cement floors with their laptops trying to get an education. So I did. I started calling internet companies and I started calling them out. I went public with it, and finally, Xfinity and a few others came through and provided free internet for these children. It's about digital divide. That's what it comes down to, digital divide. And when you look at the number of children and young people who didn't have laptops or computers at home, that was the other problem that we had to address during the pandemic. And I had again call out certain companies and demand that they donate computers and laptops. And I think I see a couple of people here. I want to thank you, because a lot of you had 2 laptops or you had an old computer and you came and you donated your computers and your laptops during the pandemic to make sure that every children, and every young person was able to get an education during the pandemic. So I would go beyond Article 52. There's a whole lot of other articles that need to be written and policies that need to be written, to ensure that there is no digital divide and that our children and our young people are guaranteed an equal opportunity to get an education. Thank you.
Absolutely, I agree 100% with everything Roberto just said, and I'm appreciative of Monkey Brains for bringing this to our attention, because I'll be blunt, I hadn't heard of Article 52 before this, and you gave us a heads up that this would be a question. I dug into it, and when I was reading the article itself, it was giving me a lot of ideas about what we could do, how we could do it. It explicitly says in Article 52 that the city attorney is empowered to file these lawsuits. So Monkey Brains doesn't even need to file this. And so as a supervisor, when we have community organizations bringing these to my attention, this is something where if you have a supervisor who has a very good relationship with the city attorney, you can be able to pursue those cases from the city's perspective. So it doesn't have to come out of, I hope you all aren't hurting money-wise, but it's not cheap to sue somebody, especially when it's a public rights issue. And this is the same, being supportive of net neutrality to make sure that these internet companies can't throttle certain communities for their services. And so they'll say, oh, well, yeah, of course, we'll give you all these freebies and everything, and then they throttle you at a certain price so they can upsell you. And so this is something that I would be happy to work with any provider on, because again, it is about the digital divide. I taught this past year in the schools, especially at Flynn and now across the district. You see kids that for some, they can't even work with a hotspot because of where their location is. It's something that is still happening, especially in mission schools and also in Portola schools, especially. And so this is something we need to, and so yeah, this is something that I'd be very excited to work with, and I'm grateful that you brought it to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So Article 52 has the potential to create a great divide of tension between tenants and landlords. This may be small cause for some landlords to choose not to rent their properties. So it's a loophole for some people, because everybody needs to have internet. And much like my compadre here, I didn't know what Monkey Brains was. I did ask somebody and they said, yeah, they're my internet provider and I'm paying $35. And I'm from the generation where, and this was before computers, right? But cable TV used to be $9.95. It's hardly
Not
that
anymore,
right now.
right?
And what if, your landlord says, well, we only want Viacom, they have that right. So that becomes an issue. So as a supervisor, I would want to help people open up the space to anyone, to Monkey Brains, because, that's part of free market. We want to have competition We don't want to drive up the prices, we want to bring them down. So that's why we're here, to hopefully make our city more affordable, and this would be part of it. Thank you.
I met Monkey Brains when there was 3 guys and a dog. You know? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. They're climbing under all the floors at Atkins Alice's headquarters, wiring the whole place, and then we grow another. It was like twice as big as this, for an election office, which is pretty interesting. We had 3 stages. You could play live music in 3 different places in the Walter Long space there, and they wouldn't interfere with each other. Three different cafeterias going at the same time. Anyway, how does that get us back to Morocco? Well, when I was in the Navy in 1962, they sent me to Morocco. They sent me to be a communicator with Morse code. No such thing as satellites. I mean, you bounced your signal off the ionosphere, and to do that, though, you had to get past the Berber tribesmen who would circle the base, because all the foreign military was supposed to be thrown out. But we were still broadcasting because the replacement base we had built in Rota, Spain wasn't working. So we're there. It's a long story short, we were paying the king $25 million a year so that we could broadcast. A lot of landlords in this town has charged providers, it used to be $5,000 sign up and you're with us forever. And then 52 came along and said, guess what, forever is tomorrow. The fact of the matter is these guys go back so far. They did to wire the entire tenderloin for nothing for the city. And the city said, wow, that's a good idea. And then Google came in and said, we'll do it. And Monkey Brain said, we're going to do it for nothing. We're just going to do it for the PR. And I said, you can't do that. So they gave Frontier $1 million to endorse them, and they gave the contract to Google, who never built the thing. Never built the thing. The way you get to 52 now, when my landlord gave me some shit, I made a goddamn picket sign and started picketing in front and handed flyers out to all my tenants, and we had it the next day.
Thank you.
Right.
My name is Julian Bermudez. I feel like everybody said it, everything that could be said. But I honestly do believe that internet should be a public right. It should be just as the light outside on the road or the street, on the floor. When I was in the Army in the barracks, you had 2 options. You either get the internet from your phone or you pay $25 off what the Army provides you. And I never experienced internet disparity in my life, because they made the 5G phone a horrible experience to use. Like, you had a hotspot, you couldn't play video games. You had to download your movies that you had to watch for later, so they forced you to waste $25 to probably $50 for your internet service. And there was moments where I was like, wow, I really need internet. And the digital divide, like, if I experienced that as a 23, 22-year-old, imagine how our kids are experienced right now at school, that they're trying to catch up. We're trying to get out of the situations we are. And internet should be a right. And just like H. Brown says, like, we have the capabilities, the infrastructure, the people that want to do it. We can make San Francisco have free Wi-Fi, but they just don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can hand the mic over to Roberto, please. So you guys get it. Each one of you is going to start this way. Okay, great. This is somewhat recent and also a hot topic right now. So this is one about SB 1047. There's been a brewing battle in the state legislature regarding SB 1047, an AI regulation bill that will require companies developing large-scale AI models to conduct safety testing and document their findings. It is authored by Senator Scott Wiener and supported by Elon Musk. Many legislators and companies are split on this issue, including formal opposition from Speaker Emeritus Pelosi, Mayor London Breed, as of today, and members of Congress and OpenAI. Where do you stand on this issue and why? start with Roberto, and then we'll move this way.
First of all, I was called immediately, which I only live a couple blocks from here, to 24th and Shotwell. Do you remember the massive shooting that happened on 24th and Shotwell?
Yeah.
On Friday afternoon, late evening, you know? And I immediately ran over, and there was this, one of those, I forget what kind of car company it was, those self-driving cars, was literally stuck in the middle of the intersection. The firefighters couldn't get through, and you can imagine the rest. It was horrifying. It was horrifying. Accidents. You know, it's like you're going too fast, too quick, and you trip and you fall. And that's one of the things that I'm really concerned is about safety. I think that we're in the middle of San Francisco, a city that has just amazing innovation, right? That's a really mastermind, creators. But at the same time, having these smartest people in San Francisco, again, I'm gonna go back to the digital divide. You know, we're being left behind, you know. Mission High School, we started the first technology program. We raised the money from the community to start that. And then expanded it to John O'Connell High School, where they got rid of John O'Connell High School, which used to have plumbers, roofers, electricians, every broadcast, architects. They changed the school, and it was supposed to be the model technology high school in the city, in the country. That never happened, because they never raised the money to make that happen. You know, so when I look at technology, and then I look now at AI, I look at the children that are sitting at Buena Vista Horace Mann,
10 seconds.
and I look at our Mission High School. They don't have an opportunity to be part of this global.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the bill. My broad philosophy is this: it is never a good idea to let an industry regulate itself. That has just never really worked out. We've seen it with the social media companies and the harmful effects social media had. We've seen it with every industry. Every industry says, we got this, we promise, it's good. I'm a fan of technology, and I think AI has the potential to bring San Francisco, every part of San Francisco, without leaving people behind, into an incredible future. But it has to have guardrails. We have PTSD, especially in the mission of the gentrification that came with the tech booms. We have to learn from that. We have to make sure that as we proceed in this incredibly exciting new future, where even with all the issues that San Francisco has, we have people moving here because this is the place to be. This is the place to be in AI. We need to balance both of those approaches. And I have a history of bridging that gap between communities and technology, making sure that we're holding tech companies accountable for being good neighbors, for being responsible, and making sure that we're not just relying on their promises, but having them accountable, and making sure that their commitments aren't just putting a logo on something or a one-time donation, and being real institutional members of our neighborhoods. And so when it comes to this bill, I hear that there are amendments being put out. I'm not going to base my support of a bill on whether Elon Musk supports it personally, but for me, this is a bigger issue. Again, OpenAI is right around the corner up on Bryant. We have a lot of technology companies here, and it's about figuring out how do we go into this next phase of San Francisco that is happening. How do we make sure that these companies are going to be good neighbors and actually contribute and not take away from where we're at.
Thank you.
I believe that this is a technology that has promise, but it's not the panacea toward consciousness. It is kind of a, we're just at the beginning of it. So slow and steady wins the race. We're not here to get to the end. We're kind of trying to develop an industry that will hopefully bring jobs and bring back the city of San Francisco. So we can't do it fast, and we can't just hand it to somebody. Self-regulation, somebody said. We can't let technology regulate itself, because people are greedy. They want to get to the end, and this is all new. It's all new for me. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. Still, all these years later, in 1996, when they said, "Well, the internet's going to change everything," and I was thinking, "Well, okay, fine. Let's see if it helps me out," and here I am getting into social media at age 56, and so I don't know, for me personally, that's what it is. I think it's, let's wrap our brain around it and let's get to it slowly, like the turtle and not the hare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Wiener stepped in some quicksand there. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever seen around in my life. I've been around a while. But he really got in over his head on this and all that. Do any of you really follow this thing? Maybe 1% of the people have any idea what's really going on. These things within, it could be 6 months, it could be 5 years, 10 years, probably going to be within the next 3 years. There's going to be an intelligence around here that is 1,000,000 times smarter than any of us. How does it, can you begin to fathom what's going to go on there? What's the first question that this thing asks itself? Do I keep humans? That's a question. But I go all the way back. I was raised by a Pentecostal preacher, no religion, thank you. I've been searching for the meaning of life and what is God my entire life. This little nascent technology that gets going, I asked the free version of it, ChatGPT. I talked to it for 3 hours about God, and this is the dumb one. And I said, okay, let's get down to the bottom line here. Do you think a future version of you will be able to back engineer the universe? And if you can do that, won't that make you God? And can't you make me a universe? ChatGPT didn't think. This thing doesn't have to think. I made it think a couple times. That's other stories. But it doesn't hesitate. It just starts typing right away. And it says, yes, it's entirely possible that a future version of myself might be able to back engineer the universe. But we can never be God, because God is a human concept and we're machines. That's an interesting answer from a machine. Another one.
10 seconds.
Anyway, the smartest guy said we're on Earth to find out two things: whether we're smart enough to create super intelligence and whether we're dumb enough to let it go.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julian Bermudez, and I feel like AI is moving faster than people can understand. I do as well try to challenge AI chats and try to stump it. Only succeeded the Snapchat one a couple times. But I feel like tech companies are probably seeing too much new and not better. Nobody has gotten past the wheel, because the wheel is as best it's gonna get. Instead of trying to find what's new, let's see what we already have and how we can do better. I think there's like 2 types of AI, generative and another type of AI. We should start going away from generative AI into other versions of AI to make our lives easier, to make our IT calculators faster, so our kids can stop buying $200 calculators and just have a small little calculator can do the same thing as a TI 30 whatever it is. There's so many capabilities that we can use AI for, but we're letting tech companies regulate themselves and pushing stuff that we don't really need, but they're creating situations where we need it. Yeah, so that's why we need more oversight over them. And it's just like how landlords have no oversight; they're doing what they do, and the same way tech companies are doing what they do, and they have a lot of promise. Thank you.
Thank you. You can pass it to Stephen, please.
So how many months have you planned this passing the mic thing?
You know that answer. Ask ChatGPT.
There is such. They never heard of cordless.
Yeah, why?
We're on a budget here, buddy. You know.
I've been thrown out of
It
bed.
is interesting when money and power are at hand, what strange bedfellows that makes. I think that the simple answer here is that does the industry need to impose self-regulatory standards, and is that required by law? Yeah, but also we need to require our own standards and mandates to ensure that oversight happens at a baseline. And I think that this has been reflected in what everyone else has said here. We can't rely on any industry to self-regulate itself, especially when there's so much money and power available.
Thank you. If you can pass the mic to Trevor, thanks.
I like that Wiener and Musk, money and power.
All right, well, we're approaching, it's 7 o'clock right now, so we have an hour, and we have a number of other questions. We'll see how we get through this. Okay, next one is on wiring standards. I'll try to be fast. And I will read. As an independent ISP founded in San Francisco and in operation now for 27 years, we have seen decades of new construction from the telecom perspective. As of today, San Francisco has no rules or regulations around telecom wiring standards for internet choice. Would you be surprised to learn that some of this new construction in the affordable housing space has been built with only one internet provider in mind, and that this has resulted in over $100 a month internet service for our most economically vulnerable without the ability to choose another provider? As supervisor, what will you do to address internet choice as we create more housing, particularly in the affordable housing space?
Yeah, so I did not know this specifically. So again, I love this forum for the fact that we are being educated versus the other way around. So again, thank you Monkey Brains for bringing this to attention. This touches on a few things. One, I do not believe in monopolies, whether it is Recology, whether it is PG&E, which also holds up affordable housing because it takes them forever to actually electrify the affordable housing. Monopolies do not create efficiency. Monopolies create just lag, and they create corruption. And whether it comes to PG&E, whether it comes to Recology, or whether it comes to this, you can count on me to come at any of these issues with an anti-monopolistic perspective to make sure that we are serving everyone and not a select special interest. And we've seen that way too often in this corruption in City Hall, where we just start accepting things. It goes back to my opening statement. We have a lot of folks that have worked within the system for a long time, and they get endorsed, the incumbent endorses them, they endorse the next incumbent, and so on and so forth. So by the time you get to City Hall, you see a wall there, you don't question whether it should be there. You just say, oh, there's a wall here. That's supposed to be there for some reason. Sorry. There's a wall here, and that's supposed to be here. And then we just keep building more walls. We build around the things that are just completely outdated and therefore corrupt or just completely unnecessary reasons. And so again, that's where I think having a new, fresh voice in City Hall, rather than someone who goes, hey, that wall's supposed to be there, so I need to figure out how to navigate around it. I'm looking at walls like this that you all are bringing to my attention, that I hope many other people, because one thing I will absolutely say is I'm not coming into this race with a halo over my head, not pretending I know everything. What I'm good at is fixing things. That's why the governor appointed me to the California State Board of Pharmacy, not because I have a background in pharmacy, but because I have a background in getting things done. And just within a year, I worked with Assemblymember Haney to get 1286 passed, which was the largest expansion of pharmacist worker protections in 10 years, and it made California a leader in medical error reporting. So that's what I do with very tough issues, just like this. It doesn't intimidate me, and that's the perspective that I bring when it comes to monopolies that have been put in place like this by a broken establishment.
Thank you.
Corporate greed is insidious. It's something that needs to be combated on all levels. And this is part of it. I think I've already mentioned that I thought that as a supervisor, I'd want to make sure that every building had that ability, and also maybe even say, okay, you know, and forgive me, you guys, but but I know you've done good work according to H. Brown, right? If, you know, maybe if a landlord is putting up a fine and saying, hey, I don't want this on my building, maybe they could be compensated by the monopoly and or the corporate entity. And again, go back to Viacom, Comcast, Infinity, whatever they're calling themselves these days. It's like these prices that they're charging, sure, they could afford to kick back to the landlord that they place their dish or their wiring on, you know, just for the sake of having it, and then they gain their money, you know, because nobody needs to be greedy in this world, and especially in this town. It's like, where do we reach the ceiling? Where do we reach the top of that? You know, people are really struggling to make their ends, to make their mortgages, to raise their kids, to, you know, just to pay for things, to go to the ball game, for God's sakes. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Go Giants.
Beat H. Brown on that one.
Go Niners.
Them too.
And that's great. I got to listen to the question, and I got to listen to most of my candidates, fellow candidates here answer it. I still don't understand the question. Are you saying?
The question's right there, H.
Are you saying that the buildings that are already wired, that 52 did not let you use the
So
wire, and so your problem now is whether you can use other companies' wire?
No, but I'm glad you're asking a further question. So the question is based on the fact that there's no wiring standard. So when there is, like, let's say a remodel or a new construction.
What do you mean wiring standards? Thick wire, thin wire?
I'll tell you in a second. So if they're building a new building, right, and let's say they made a 20-unit building in San Francisco somewhere, there's no requirement for the builder to run anything really to the unit or more than one wire, let's say. So if they only run one wire, and that wire was not even run by the builder, but was run by AT&T, let's say, AT&T will make sure that no one else can use that wire except them. Because there's no wiring standard at DVI, and there's no wiring standard in planning, and there's nothing like that. So we don't think about that here, and we're kind of bringing that to light here and wondering what a D9 candidate that understood this issue, understand the new construction and remodel, is not thinking about wiring standards for telecom. And then how would you address that?
It's obviously the problem's got to be addressed legislatively. Okay, we got there with 52. We got on top of the building now. Now it's getting to my plasma screen or whatever the hell it is that I'm hanging around there and all that. And the person, our candidate who's best on legislative things, who's got a degree from Stanford, is Jackie Buehler. She's not here tonight because your vote's in the bag. Is it your vote in the bag for Jackie Buehler? 2 months ago, she was notified about this. This happens on a presidential level. It happens on high school, I imagine. If one candidate gets so far ahead and they decide, screw that, the rest of these guys, somebody might get up there and take me down and get a zinger. You know, so I will not expose myself to that. I'm going to go to a fundraiser and make a couple of bucks instead. Well, the hell with that. I'm telling you folks, you communicate to Ms. Fielder that she not only will not get your first place vote in the bag, but the second or third. And you know what? She's way ahead in this race, and that would knock her out. One of you guys would know.
Thank you, H.
Thank you.
My name is Julian Bermudez. It's kind of hard to go after H a little bit.
You can switch that around if you want.
Right?
The moderator is flexible.
It's fine. People are awake now, listening to me, right? Yeah, I didn't really know that, any of this. I looked in a little bit into it, but now that you explained it at a deeper level, yeah, it's straight policy that we need to push, just like the first question. but it's also corporate monopoly saying this is my line and nobody else's. This goes to the same thing as PG&E, why there's no other companies, because those are specifically PG&E lines, so you can't do anything else with those. It's just killing the monopolies in San Francisco. Basically, it not only will help with this, but it'll help with a huge amount of other things, especially there's a push of trying to make home appliances all electric, but the issue with that, because I do that for work, is that a lot of the gas lines are in the way, and if the gas line's not being used, you have to take all the gas lines out. But you need PG&E approval for that, and PG&E probably gonna tell you no. And if you're getting a plumber, the plumber's gonna cost you more, and that just goes back into this type of monopoly of, I own this, you can't take it from me. But the person that owns the house is you or the property owner, and that's the person that has the final say if you can do anything in the house. So it's creating an anti-monopoly type of legislation, especially in our housing, because affordable housing isn't affordable when you have to pay $100 for internet, then $200 for your PG&E, $200 for your water, and it's making sure that rent's lower, but now you're paying all these other private companies more. Just cutting out the middleman of that landlord this time. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Believe it or not, I did know about this, and the reason why is, here's another little story. About 20 years ago, AT&T started offering all of us, as well as other internet service providers, TV providers, to bundle all of our telecom. I'm sure you remember that. They're like, why don't you pay less if you get your phone, your TV, and your internet all together? Then, about between 5 and 10 years ago, they started petitioning the California PUC to rip out all the hard lines so that they could put in fiber, because according to them, no one uses their hard lines anymore. We don't get requests for that anymore. The reason why they don't get requests for it anymore is because they convinced everyone to bundle their service into one fiber line instead of the hard line. Now, one might ask themselves, why? Because hard lines are copper wire, and copper wire is now one of the most expensive metals that to procure and sell in the world right now. So right now, AT&T is in the business not only of furthering their monopoly around telecom, but also in harvesting copper wire from our old service lines, our old hard lines. Now, we might think, well, it doesn't really matter, like only Luddites and old folks and whatever, they're the only ones that need hard lines. No, that's not true. If you might recall, in Lahaina, several hundreds of people died and still have gone missing because they didn't know the fire was coming because their cell phone service and their internet service fell out. We live in a state that is beautiful beyond compare, but it is also a cataclysmic state. It has earthquake, flood, and fire. Our internet service goes out all the time, not knocking anyone.
10 seconds.
But to sew it all together, yes, as supervisor, I will address internet choice, but most importantly, that there are infrastructural requirements to what is in your house, because the minute you lose all access and something happens, to put it bluntly, we're fucked.
Thank you. Please call support tomorrow.
I have led in this community to build 1,400 affordable housing units. And I'll tell you, the first one we built, it took 7 years. Should not take 7 years. It should only take 2 years, number one. So I know how to cut that, but I also know that the planning department on this issue has failed to do anything. The planning department, that's where it's at, right? Now, growing up, I remember there was only one phone company. It's called Pacific Bell, and it was $3 a month. I still have, what did you call it? Hardline. I pay $9. Get a hardline. $9. And I got an answering service. Phone booths, remember the phone booths? It was 10 cents to make a phone call. They got rid of all the phone booths. Why? Because they weren't profitable. They were profitable. It just wasn't enough, right? So when we look at, the fact that we had free TV, I remember there was channel 2, 7, 5, and 9. And sometimes if you had 4. And if you had a bad antenna, you take turns holding the antenna, right? Life was simple and affordable, and so what I would change is that every new home that is built not only addresses this, but is a green home, right? That doesn't have gas, it's electric, has solar panels, right? Has rooftops where you can grow vegetables and fruits. That's where technology can help community, and we can come together and create the bridge on how we build with technology, innovators, architects, and community, and artists, beautiful buildings, right? But let me end by saying that, when industries are created, right, who will be working in these industries? If you remember, we had newspapers before, we had magazines before, we had books before. All those people who worked in that industry, gone. Jobs gone. People who worked in the Chronicle and the Examiner, the Paperboy, me being one of them. Kids today can't get a paperboy job. So what we really got to do is, how do we collectively really look at these new industries that's going to benefit everybody?
Thank you. Rudy, I think we're ready for the next question. Okay, this is an AI question, but also kind of a land use question, and I will be quick. The AI industry is said to be booming and contributing to the San Francisco economy. Realtors have told us that AI is one of the only active industries in commercial leasing and commercial property sales. The realtors have also mentioned that AI folks are especially drawn to the commercial lands of your district.
Can you slow down? I'm really.
Yes, you can also read it right there, H, if you. I will slow down.
Isn't that something, they do something every day?
I will slow down. The realtors also have mentioned that AI folks are especially drawn to commercial lands of the Mission District. Tech booms in the past benefited many, but raised rents and hurt many working class and low-income individuals, especially the Latinx community, once 50% of the district's population, now 34%. As supervisor, how will you interact with this industry? Regulate? Promote? Have we learned anything from the previous mono-economy periods, a la the .com and the app era in our city? I think we're starting with Jaime.
Well, as far as having these spaces built and or filled, the real estate angle of this question, I think it's important to make sure that the buildings aren't just self-contained kingdoms where people go in and that's where everything happens. The food and the coffee and everything's provided, the gymnasium, the laundromat, and all that stuff. That is a repeat of, I would think that would be a repeat of the .com, and look what happened. Everybody hightailed it once everything got made, everybody was working from home. So all those things have to be in conjunction with bringing businesses and or I guess not so much industries, but creating, say, art galleries or something like that, where the buildings become community spaces. So AI is a part of the community, and it helps the community, and it gives jobs to the community, because not everybody from the community is going to have the know-how, if you will. So they have to somehow create those things, and that would legitimize it, and the city could give them help with that. So make sure that they include everyone in their overall plans.
Yeah, the dot-com, a lot of people made a lot of money. They drove up the cost of living, and the cost of living hasn't gone down. So that kind of sticks in my craw, because this is not the city that I grew up in. It really isn't. Everybody that was here before, all the service industry people, they've been run out. And we don't have a nightlife anymore. You know, we need a nightlife. We need, you know, Stephen needs a nightlife, you know, because that's, you know, the bar industry. I was a cab driver for many years, and that was a good industry. It truly was. But the city had a big hand in killing that industry, and that hurts. You know, but everything that was around that, you know, even neighborhoods, you know, that had a lot of overnight stuff are no longer here, so we need to bring that back. And hopefully this will be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you two switch this time just to do you a song? No, we'll do you a song. Let's do you a song. H. Switch with them this time. Just for one time. One time, H. You can do it. There you go. You'll go after him.
All your bet.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what you get for saying me to slow down.
My name is Julian Bermudez, and I could translate that to one word: gentrification. That's basically what it is. And especially tech people like, not just trying to discriminate y'all, but they like to make it so complicated. But it's just gentrification. Why do they want this side of the city and not the other side of the city? Because the other side of the city, they got more money and more time and more lawyers to put up a fight. This side of the city, we don't have that. And if we get, as a supervisor, I will for sure push to stop gentrification, to have enough supplies, enough money to fight against these gentrification, because the only way this is going to stop is for us to actually have the same resources that the west side has. Because the west side is always going to get their way because they got the money, the resources, and the representation. But here in the east side, we don't. That's why we have high rises here. That's why we have all the affordable housing here. That's why this is the slummy part of San Francisco, because we don't have enough money or time or representation because we're the working class. Over there, they have more time. They're retired people, lawyers, and other landlords that have land on this side of town. And I honestly do want to stop putting money into AI, because there's other places in the technology center that we can put more money into to make better. We don't need something new, we need to make better. Like pushing for better internet, you know, and pushing for having Wi-Fi just in the street. We can make our lives better. We don't need a new life. And we need to stop gentrification, stop letting them make overcomplicated for us, like this. Not saying you overcomplicated it, but it's just gentrification. We need to stop gentrification, because they're gonna keep on just blah, 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 but they don't wanna confront the what's at hand. Thank you.
Thank you. H.
I agree with Julian. When the bullets that never stopped flying in Serbia or Bosnia there, but when they stopped flying for a while there in Bosnia, said, hey, we got a country here. The president of Bosnia did a very intelligent thing. He went to two people. He went to George Soros and he went to Dick Sklar. You probably all know who George Soros is, but Dick Sklar was the head of the head of the PUC here. Dick Sklar was a genius engineer. He's the guy who rebuilt the cable cars and brought them in underpriced. He's the person that said got tired of seeing all the buses stuck on the hills there, and he said, why not we do it European way and we'll put overhead wiring over the entire city. You can't do that. He did that. At 28 years old, he was chief engineer and rebuilt the sewage plants down in Hunters Point. So they brought him in and they said, Dick, you're fighting with PG&E over there in San Francisco. Will you show us how, as a country, that we can create a public utility system that is not going to get privatized? And so I said, sure, I'll be glad to I'll talk to you about the old PG&E red diaper baby Sklar. And Soros said, and I'll show you how to finance it. So that's that's a pretty good, a pretty good kick there. It all boils down to, as my man Julian says here, it's greed. It's always greed, it's always about greed. And our forum last night, where Fielder was, and she's not here tonight, and all you keep that in mind. Don't vote for her until she starts showing. Don't make your vote is not in the bag, okay? Don't make her ignore you and say, screw you and all that. But Henry George, who wrote in the Mission District here, is a great writer, and he created the idea of land banks. The city should buy every goddamn piece of property that's on the block and go to eminent domain with key pieces that are not. And you
10
take the
seconds.
value out of the land, and then you can use public use, and nobody's gonna pounce on it like what on the what.
Thank you.
Realtors have told us that AI is one of the only active industries in commercial leasing and commercial property sales. Now, that's an interesting insight from realtors, considering the other question that we had about AI. And I think it's something worth thinking about, and who, as I said, the strange alliances that happen when money and power are at hand. As my colleagues have accurately pinpointed, this is about greed. And I've lived here now for 25 years. I've seen several cycles of one extractive industry after another coming in and coming out. And if you were rebuilding your house and you had a contractor that was doing a terrible job, but they said that they still needed you to pay them more money for them to continue to do a terrible job, I don't think you would be inclined to do so. And I think as a baseline, the job as a supervisor is to represent the interests of this community and to be the community's representative. So in good conscience, I could not possibly incentivize or make things easier for any one industry that overrode the best interests of the community. I'm not against innovation or any industry developing here. As I said, this has been a center of innovation for decades, but it should come with a price. As we pay so much to live in the city we love, they too should pay into this city and support it.
Yeah. I like that.
Drop the mic.
I've been with Carnival for 46 years. In the very beginning, there was 500 of us that came together for Cedar Park, and I helped build the infrastructure to create it and make it an international event that teaches our children in schools, our young people, about their roots, their dance, their music, their history. It's a beautiful event. How many of you have been to Carnival? Raise your hand. Isn't it beautiful? It's a gift, right? And it infuses millions and millions of dollars to our small businesses, our local economy, you know? You got lines around the block, right? You know, so when you think about Carnival and think that was very innovative, right? You know, culture, we took culture as an asset and we developed it, right? But we never put a price on it because it's priceless. When you teach somebody to learn who you are, you know, and you build the self-esteem of it. But you know what? The real estate industry, what have they done here in the Mission? I remember when we used to play conga drums and have Roombas at Dolores Park growing up. And all of a sudden, said, man, I'm choking. And all of a sudden, they changed the character of Dolores Park and its surroundings. And John Santos got arrested for playing conga drums in Dolores Park. Wow. That was crazy. That was insane. And if you think about it, what has the real estate industry done? They now call that area that Dolores Park is around, which used to be called The Mission, they call it Dolores Heights.
Zuck.
And why do they call it Dolores Heights? Because the real estate industry decided that one house that's just a piece of land and some wood and toilets and a bath is worth $1.8 million. Thank you, real estate industry.
Thank
And this ties into my previous answer, which is there is a lot of PTSD from the previous .com booms, and we have to learn and not repeat those mistakes. Part of that, is lessons we still haven't learned, which is building affordable housing. We still have not built the affordable housing that we need, especially the West Side. We've had a lot of supervisors that have talked a really big game, especially in the West Side. They say, oh, of course I support affordable housing. I'm the most progressive, 100% affordable housing person on this board of supervisors. How many units of affordable housing did the Sunset build in a decade? 24. So what I'm committed to do is making sure that we are holding folks accountable, that they are actually contributing to the community. You know, I talk to people that live around OpenAI, work around OpenAI, they say, Trevor, we're trying to give out discounts to the people there. We want them to be patrons, and we don't hear anything, because again, it's all enclosed. People aren't doing anything there. We need to hold these companies accountable. And most importantly, the best way to fight gentrification is to build affordable housing and to hold, especially the West Side, accountable for building theirs. We should not cede any leadership on building affordable housing in District 9. We should continue to be leaders on that. And we should make sure that we have neighborhood preference so that if there is any market rate housing built, that there are direct affordable housing units behind it to make sure we are continuing to fight gentrification. But this is something where we hope we had learned the lesson from the last 10, 20 cycles. If we had learned a lesson, we would have a lot more affordable housing in the West Side. We would have more housing to fight this gentrification. Because again, San Francisco is going to continually go through these changes. It's the history of San Francisco to change. And we can do that while preserving the character and preserving the people and the culture and the livelihoods for folks that were born and raised here.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We have 2 questions left. 30 minutes.
I have one question.
Okay. You're handing out flowers?
Is this for my funeral?
It's for your partner. Actually,
I
you
can enjoy it before.
You can put it next to your bed. It helps you with the dreams.
Oh.
Roses is the highest thing.
We're taking a flower break. But we need to be quick. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you.
I'm the flower lady in the mission.
I love you.
Don't forget that.
Thank you. Okay, great. Autonomous driving vehicles. This was a last-minute question, but let's go for it. Autonomous driving vehicles are not only used for transportation, but also collect real-time data of street conditions, traffic, and human faces and voices. What is your view on policy around private data collection by AVs for public and private uses? H. We're starting with you this time.
I love Waymo. They come under my door 100 times, they're under my window 100 times a day. Their parking lot's right down the street. The problem is that there's 2 different kinds of driving technology. There's Tesla and FSDs and 12 or 13 phases of it or whatever, and it still doesn't work. But with that, as he says, you'll be able to drop our car in China, and we got it just about dialed in, 98%, but we got to have 99.9. We put it down, we can drop it in China, and it can drive anywhere. That's the difference from Waymo. But Waymo can beat the shit out of San Francisco, I'll tell you. They can find anything, anywhere, and watching them out my window, and I'm a pedestrian all the time with my dog, and I'm telling you, the Waymo is 10 times the driver than any human is. They'll give courtesy to people and a dog. When you're cleaning the gutter, they'll do that. I'm not opposed to it. And here we go, folks. And what every Waymo has got is like 6 cameras on it. Every Tesla's got 8 cameras. Waymo's got like 4 cameras. Tesla has 4 million of them on the street. 4 million, and they're gonna have 8 million within the next 2 years. 8 cameras each, except for the Cybertruck, which has 9. All of the data they're collecting, you know what's they're gonna do with that? Doesn't matter, because AI is gonna kick all their ass. By the time this gets going, there's gonna be a super intelligence that's gonna be in charge of the whole goddamn mess anyway. So let's talk about it and worry about it, but dial in and get ready for AI, because that's what's happening. Collect away, collect away.
Thank you, Rich.
My name is Julian Bermudez. I'm not really a big fan of the automated cars, but that's because I have anxiety of no one being on the wheel.
Yes.
But that just comes from riding it more. I remember the first time I rode it from my house to about halfway through Mission Street, probably like 20th Street. I just needed to see how it felt. You know, I finally got the confirmation from Waymo, and I screamed out the window saying, "Help, help, please stop, I don't like this anymore." But I started taking it more and more and often, especially with other friends. Like, they're like, "Oh, you're trying to be fancy?" I'm like, "No, I'm trying to run for office. I can't make legislation on something I don't know. And I've gotten to where if I close my eyes, I'm comfortable. I play with the music, I look out the window, then I'm comfortable. That's the curve that I feel that the AVs are not hitting yet. That people are not comfortable with that yet. One thing that I did notice that these cars could be really great for to be pace cars throughout the city, because speeding is one of the hottest. Like, it kills people. All right. And these cars can be great pacemakers. I don't really agree with them collecting sound or videos until we understand how to use that in courts, or how we use that in how it works with with our privacy. I'm a privacy guy. That's where my conservative is like. It's my privacy. I'm always about privacy. I just took a plane the other day and I said, no, I don't want that facial recognition stuff that the TSA is pushing. You could say no, but they don't have a sign that says you can say no. There's so many great things that could happen, but if we just allow these companies to put cars on cars on cars on cars, our current drivers are gonna get mad. One thing I wanna push is one company, one city, and just stick with Waymo, and if another company wants to come in, it has to go through legislation, and the city has to pass it, because I'm not sure if y'all seen the Uber ones out there already.
10 seconds. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of value to that emotional response to this new technology, and the potential for good, and traffic deaths are rampant. We have and I think one of the big hooks here is how much traffic accidents and fatalities are a result of human error. But I think what's missing in this conversation is that these are supposed at the center of this are humans, and we have to remember that it is humans that we are in effect supposedly trying to be protected by these technologies, but there are also humans that are going to feel the impacts of these technologies in ways that we haven't quite fully fleshed out, and yet the California Public Utilities Commission is overriding local autonomy to allow these companies to operate these in our streets at increasing expansion and rates without really providing any sort of regulation and oversight. In particular, our personal data, our privacy in collecting our faces and our voices. You have to think about this right now. We're seeing in real time of how drones, which seem innocuous if you see them flying around in the park, or they seem like a tool by which law enforcement can do better, they are currently collecting data on homeowners so they can take their policies away. So there is real impacts that are not fully fleshed out or covered when we allow technology to advance without any sort of restrictions or oversight. The other thing to think about with these vehicles is insurance claims. These are owned by companies, so when you file a claim, if you do get hit or you got run over like that poor person did before, or there's just a car accident, what will that look like?
10 seconds.
These are real questions that we need to ask ourselves before we continue to allow unfettered access to our public spaces, our streets, to our people.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go back to you, I mean, when you were a taxi driver, and I mean, probably, you could ask him at the end what it took for him to get a medallion. They made it so impossible for people to get medallions. It was over-regulated, right? And very costly to get a medallion. But all of a sudden, you know, they allowed Uber to come here, no regulation. They allowed Lyft to come in. You know, SFMTA was, you know, has been on this, let's get everybody out of cars, let's get everybody walking. But yet they let Uber and Lyft come, right? At one point, at the height of Uber and Lyft, we had over 10,000 Uber Lyft drivers, which the majority of them didn't even live in San Francisco. So what did that do to climate change?
Yep.
Right? What did that do to climate change? Right? Isn't that a contradiction? You're trying to get people out of cars, but yet you're letting Uber and Lyft, you know? So, poor planning, that's what I call that. I call that poor planning. And so when you look at, you know, Waymo, right? It's these cars taking jobs away.
Yeah.
Taking jobs away, right? And then when we look at the privacy, right? All this intelligence that they're collecting, that are they turning it over to the government, or are they keeping it for themselves? Or are they, you know, is this data being banked and then sold? You know, we have no idea, absolutely none. So we're powerless, right, about what's going on. I don't know if you ever seen the movie recently where it's like a detective movie, and they go into a computer, and then we gotta find Pedro, and he's driving a 64 Chevy Impala, and they go, and then all these, you know, photos come up, all these streets, there's Pedro, the Loretta, he's on 24th in Alabama, go get him, you know? I mean, it's crazy technology today. I mean, right, where they can find you, right? And so I say, you know what, is that we need to build together. Bring community with you. There should be a pathway where all of us are involved, not just a few, that 1%.
Thank you.
So specifically on the privacy question, I have an expansive view of privacy. I believe in the constitutional right to privacy, whether it's about abortion or whether it's about your presence online. You should have a right to your own privacy. And when it comes to things like engaging with law enforcement, it should only be accessible via subpoena power, if at all. And I believe in that. And same as we have these different regulations now on some social media, I think they could be stronger to make sure that we control our own identity. We're seeing this with AI again, where people's identities are being taken. I don't want to end up in an extra in a movie because Waymo decided to steal my identity and use it for that. We have a right to our own identity, and we should be able to do that. And I think it's a balance because this is an exciting part of the future. And yes, people are involved. And to give you an example, and this kind of goes back to if we have a functioning city, then hopefully we are reducing the impact of Waymo overall. So first and foremost, safety. It does involve people, as has been said. My husband is black. He has had way more than his fair share of racist Uber drivers. And you know what? Having a Waymo that guarantees you from getting point A to point B without having to deal with racism is a really attractive thing. So that's number one. So it does impact people. Number two, if we have a safe, clean, and reliable public transit system, that is what's going to decrease car usage and Uber usage and Waymo usage the most. Right now, if you want to take the 67 or if you want to take any of these, people are saying, well, what's the cost benefit analysis? I have to pay $10 extra to get there twice as fast. Sure. What we need to do is invest in our public transit and make sure people feel safe taking public transit, which unfortunately in the Mission, they do not feel safe at 16th to 24th right now. And so, so many of these, yes, they're big, important tech issues, 100%. We need to focus on privacy, we need to focus on people, we need to focus on their impact. But the way we can make the best impact as a city, making sure that it doesn't happen, is by having a well-run city. It's kind of why I joke I want to be the most boring supervisor you've ever had. Because if we have a well-run city that has safe and clean streets, that has public transportation that's safe, clean, and reliable, that will inevitably reduce the usage and the overwhelming potential change that would come as a part of these new technologies.
Thank you.
So again, it's like putting the cart before the horse. You know, this is needed technology. However, there's wrinkles that need to be ironed out, and with the with the demographic collapse of birth rate, you know, people are starting to die. So there aren't going to be enough people to drive people as they get older, and you know, at some point you lose your license. So maybe it's a good thing that you're going to have a vehicle that's going to be able to drive you around. But we're not quite there yet. You know, people are also going to need to, our goods are going to need to go across the state. You know, again, these jobs, people aren't really willing to take these jobs, but we don't want to take jobs from people either. So we have to wait and see until the demographic shift happens, and it is happening. You know, the biggest generation is dying, the boomers are dying. So that's one part of it. The other part is the data collection. Data. We're all locked into data. It creeps me out. It really, you know, it's like Big Brother and Hal all rolled into one. You know, what's gonna happen? So we do need to protect our individual freedoms on that level. You know, on certain levels they say, well, you know, these persons' individual rights need to be respected. Yes, they do, but sometimes, you know, people are gonna need help. And if they need to get from A to B, and this is one way to get there, then maybe there's something to it. But as far as data collection and what previous candidates were talking about, you know, we cannot rely on any sort of facial recognition because they're not going to get it right. You know, there are going to be mistakes made. So
10 seconds.
Slowly but surely, we're going to get there, but let's not get there overnight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on to our last question. Leon, we're going to start with you. Thanks for sticking in there for the last.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been great. Thank you for your answers, and let's take it home with this one. All right, this is about ACP. ACP is a federal program. It was, before I read this question, I just want to say that as an ISP, we were very excited about this. During COVID, it was like a necessity. And we got to get so many people online that couldn't afford it previously. And even to this day, people call in to Monkey Brains that are former ACP people say, hey, I can't afford it. I didn't pay anything, now I need to pay $35, and we've been lowering their rates just to keep them on. So we really did value this program. We think it should be replaced with something at the local level, and that's where this question comes from. It's from all the people that we got online that couldn't have previously been online, and what do we do with them now? So here we go, I'll read it real fast. The Affordable Connectivity Program, known as ACP, was a federal program that provided a $30 a month subsidy to qualifying families for internet service fees. The program was launched during COVID when connectivity was critical to keep people employed, healthy, in school, and entertained. ACP funding is now depleted, but 23 million households were successfully enrolled during its existence. And the data obtained from qualifying households is still held by ISPs and the FCC. As supervisor, will you be interested in creating a localized program similar to ACP? If so, how would you do it? And most importantly, how would you fund it?
My name is Julian Bermudez. I guess if it hasn't been said enough from the first question, I believe that internet's a right everybody should have. It's just like the streets and the lights outside. Yeah, I would want to do this at the local level. And how we would fund it is to start a wealth or a millionaire tax. Because the number one thing is that not everybody's paying their fair share. We every day we're talking about how the city budget is lower, or we're not paying stuff, or there's always something with the budget, and it's about $15 billion of budgeting. One of the most, like there's, that you could combine about 50 cities on anywhere else in the United States, it still doesn't make our budget. And we still don't have the funding to keep our schools open. Stuff like this should be the next thing online, instead of, oh, we need to think about how to keep our schools open. And getting this millionaire tax on, it will provide stuff like this to our underprivileged communities. Something like this would have helped so much in high school. There was some times where I had to go to Starbucks to go get some internet because it was hard to get internet back in 2010. Yeah, I mean, I already said it. I feel like I answered this 3 times. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will add,
Yeah.
so please, applause. I will add that we have reached out to the CTO of San Francisco, and he was very interested in this. We did get a response, but then nothing came of it. But I'm saying this is of interest to people in government, mildly. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I believe, as Julian said, the internet or wireless. These are all. This is a part of our life now. This is an accessibility and equity issue. We live in a society, especially that got compounded during lockdown, that is getting increasingly disconnected, and we need to have every function available to make sure that we stay connected, especially to our most vulnerable, which are elders and youth. I talked about the hard landlines before and how important those are, but that is not to take away from how important this is as well. One of the reasons I bring up elders and youth, let's just take one piece right now, is that we're staring down the barrel of the possibility of school closures right now. And a lot of people have asked all of us, as what would we do as supervisor to ensure that the schools don't close, or that the kids still get their needs met. And honestly, in terms of preventing the schools from closing, there is little any of us can do legislatively. But there are things that we can do to hold our city accountable. That said, should that happen, it is absolutely the responsibility of the supervisor to make sure that the needs of the most vulnerable are getting met, and this is one of those ways that we can do that. It's through equity in access and accessibility, so absolutely, I would support that.
Thank you.
So earlier I talked about the Mission Food Hub, 9,000 families. Not only food, couldn't pay the rent. We started a rental assistance program. We provided computers, provided internet, we provided clothing. I mean, what did we not provide during the pandemic? And it's about when people come together, we can do anything. It's that simple. It was about those who had, gave. And they gave out of love, and they gave out of necessity, and they cared. And that's what I really believe in, that we need to continue addressing this digital divide that I talked about earlier, and that we need to bridge that digital divide. So here's a thought. How about we require, but first, we get together with all the internet companies and ask them, how will they address the fact that some people can't afford internet, and have them come up with a program to provide for those who can, right? And if for whatever reason they can't figure it out, right, we'll figure it out. And here's one solution that I propose today. How about you pay internet based on how much you make? So if you have a senior that only gets $800 a month, that senior should not pay for the internet. Single mom with 5 kids, working 2 jobs, should not pay for internet. It doesn't cost the internet any money, because I found that out during the pandemic, to give free internet. Absolutely nothing. And how about those that can't afford it, right? Pay a little more. Would you be willing to pay a little bit more if you make a little bit more money than everybody else? It's that simple. You know, those who can't, give. Those who can't, we give. It's about being humans and about caring. You know, again, it's, my brother should not be at Starbucks sitting on the floor. You know, a 9-year-old should not be in front of McDonald's with a laptop trying to do homework. Thank you.
100%. And along those lines, I fully support treating internet access as a public utility. It is just as essential nowadays as water, electric, gas, everything else, and it should be treated as such with a public option so we do not have a monopoly, so that we actually have a public option competition with the private sector. It's too often, studies have continually showed that you can estimate the economic, you can estimate where a person will be economically as far as moving up the economic ladder based on their, based on their zip code. And we're seeing that especially in these brownout areas where internet is not accessible. So what I would support doing is figuring out how we can do a local version, how we can work with state partners to actually have state money come in, and also figure out how do we actually go about being one of these municipalities. Go back to San Francisco being a leader on issues like this, where we start saying we're actually going to treat the internet as a public utility because it is essential. Whether you're applying for a job, whether you need health care, everything you need in this world that we live in nowadays requires internet connectivity. That is the basic definition of a public utility that we need, and we should treat it with the urgency as such, with the subsidies as such, and with the city's infrastructure. And that's something I'd definitely be interested in leading on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to have internet access for everyone. It's very important, and I also believe that every library should have that. That would be a good way for the digital divide to be dealt with, because bring people back to the libraries. Those are great places to learn, and there are people there that really care, and they don't shush you as much in the library, I noticed, but maybe those librarians are gone. But as far as like having a program like this and continuing it, moving forward, and maybe somebody says, hey, there's no money in the budget for it, that speaks to like a larger issue in this city, because we have a city of 808,000 people, and it's costing $14.6 billion to run it. You know, there has to surely be in some place, somewhere where they can cut funds, and it wouldn't be anything drastic. You wouldn't cut money from elder care, but you could cut money from, say, the airport, which gets a lot of money. Maybe they don't need to be able to build a lounge for travelers that are in first class, with a Michelin star restaurant. Maybe they don't need that today. Maybe we could use a little bit of that money, and also the PUC is another part of the equation. They take a lot of money, so look at that, and look at the nonprofits that are not doing well. Look at the top-down, leaders there that are making so much money. It's like, okay, let's put these
let's call these entities onto the carpet and look for something. So this is where some sort of budget could come from to deal with this and so many other issues in the city of San Francisco today. Thank you, and the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, PG&E has already got, you aren't Google. Google has already got every fire station, every library, every public building in this town. They've got some kind of fiber cable going to them. When the big war went down 20 years ago, Monkey Brains wanted to give free internet to people in the Tenderloin. Google killed it. Yet they have their services, though. It's about greed. It's always about greed. I'm probably the only communist left in San Francisco, but I think everything should be free. We've got, Bertrand Russell said 100 years ago that we should be able to cut the work week to 20 hours a week, and by 1940 we should be able to get it down to 10 hours a week. And he didn't even know anything about AI. Shouldn't have to work for anything, period, at all. I want to close, and I agree with Julian, taxing the rich is the way to get it. But I want to close while we still got some people in the room here and all that, to remind you, the big thing that's happening in any of these races is the biggest advertiser for the mayors, for all of them and all that, is the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters does top-notch filming, and they give it in front of a couple of million people who watch SFGTV between now and November 5th. Monkey Brains has got a great following, but it ain't 2 million. And so I'm gonna come down on my girl Jackie Fielder here. She's not here. She's telling you it's in the bag. It's in the bag, and she doesn't care if I tell you this here, because it ain't gonna get out to 2 million people, right? You know what? You can help, because you're all influencers. You wouldn't be here tonight if you weren't influencers. You're the people that the family members and the neighbors said, hey, who the hell should I vote for? What's going on here? I'll say, well, I'll tell you one person I wouldn't vote for is a person that insulted you, who said, this is in the bag. Is your vote in the bag? I hope not. Mine sure as hell is. And she was my first pick. She was my first pick. You know? I'm sorry, Trevor, I got on your ass last night with League of Women Voters, and there are 2 million people, and now I'm trying to say I'm sorry in front of 100.
10 seconds to go on. Okay.
This has been a lot of fun.
This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming here today, for contributing to this conversation on tech and community. And if you don't mind, can you put the music on? If you don't mind staying here for a quick picture.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. We are 8:01 right now.
Okay, I only have 3 questions.
You can ask one question if you want.
Well,
Danny. Here, come here. You want to use the microphone?
I want to know how any of you will work about displacement. I live in the Mission for 26 years. And the Mission has changed dramatically, and most people have been kicked out. I got evicted. I make a really big thing about it because it is very important. So the Mission is not a mission what it used to be the Mission. Most people have been run away to Oakland, somewhere else, or we have been displaced. How will you feel and what will you do about houseless people, homeless people in the Mission? And what is about the Monkey Brains that it took the gardens of Latino people who will come on the weekends to sembrar what is sembrar. I don't know what is sembrar, but we had a garden
It's
in a
coming
public
back.
area
It's coming back.
where they took it from us, from families, from kids, that it will come and it will do what it should be done in this planet right now, which is to sembrar our own food. What is sembrar? Please, somebody enlighten me.
What's your third, what's your third question?
I just said, what is the word sembrar?
Plant.
To plant.
Where we
But Denny,
plant
Denny,
our food. So,
Denny,
how are
you-
we going to deal with that?
I will answer this question.
Thank you.
We are actually working with the Park Alliance and we're trying to actively get a permit to do exactly what you're saying, but to do it through the Park Alliance and through the San Francisco Permitting Department with title for that land. So we hear you, and we're doing that. We're just going through
Thank you.
DBI this
I
time.
just didn't know.
Yeah,
It just
it's happening.
disappeared.
You know what? If you want to push on the Park Alliance, I would really appreciate that because I've been telling them that I really want this done, and it's been 3 months.
I will be done.
I'll give you their address.
Indeed, but what
Thank you.
about displacement and what about homeless?
Okay, if you guys
What
want
about
to,
Palestine?
if you guys want to
I
answer,
would love to know.
if you guys
what
wanna